Imagine an empire so absurdly rich, so utterly flush with gold, that its camels, the very beasts of burden, reportedly strutted across the desert adorned in golden harnesses. Can you picture that? An entire civilization, a beacon of wealth and power existing for centuries, then it just vanished from the map. One century, the bustling markets of Cambyses sparkled with salt and gold dust, a vibrant hub of commerce and culture. The next, those same ancient caravan routes rolled past nothing but haunting ruins, wind whistling through empty spaces. How on earth do you lose an empire, a whole way of life that was literally built on rivers of gold? It sounds like something out of a fantasy novel, doesn't it? But this isn't fiction. This is the story of ancient Ghana, also known as the Ouagadougou Empire, a true legend of West Africa. Today, we're going to follow the money, trace the creeping shadows of drought, and examine the glint of swords to finally solve the enduring mystery of its disappearance. Let's set the scene, shall we? Picture the vast, shimmering expanse of the Sahara Desert around 750 AD for centuries. Trade across this colossal barrier was slow, arduous, and fraught with peril. Then a game-changer arrived, the camel. These incredible ships of the desert had just begun to replace the clunky, inefficient ox carts, dramatically shrinking the desert crossings and opening up new possibilities for trade. It was in this pivotal moment that a shrewd sinning chief, Dinga, Sis, began to unite scattered farming villages nestled between the life-giving Senegal and Niger rivers. What he didn't realize, perhaps, was that he wasn't just creating a collection of settlements. He was laying the foundation for a golden dynasty. Ghana, or Ouagadougou, as it was truly known by its people, wasn't just strategically located. It was perfectly positioned. Think of it as the ultimate ancient crossroads. It sat exactly where the precious, life-sustaining salt, mined in the north, met the coveted, gleaming gold, dug from the rich earth in the south. Now, don't get it twisted, there weren't any gold mines right in the royal courtyard. The king wasn't digging nuggets out of his backyard. Instead, Ghana became the ultimate middleman, the indispensable toll booth on the most lucrative trade route in all of West Africa. For every 6 ounces of gold that crossed its borders, 1 ounce, a hefty 16% tax, stayed right in the king's palm. Imagine that kind of revenue stream. Do that, consistently, for 200 years, and you don't just get a wealthy king. You get an entire society dripping in prosperity. Even the royal guards, we're told, started wearing gold anklets. That's not just wealth. That's swagger, Word of this incredible affluence didn't stay confined to West Africa either. It traveled along those same trade routes, carried by merchants and scholars, reaching the grand courts of Cordoba in Islamic Spain and the bustling markets of Cairo in Egypt. Sudan. They whispered, referring to the land of the blacks. There is a ruler who trades gold like cowrie shells. That nickname, Ghana, meaning war chief or king of gold, wasn't just a title. It became synonymous with unimaginable riches. The empire wasn't just collecting tolls, it was minting its own legend. At the heart of this golden empire lay its magnificent capital, Kumbhi, a city so significant it was actually two distinct towns, separated by about 6 miles of desert sand. On one side, you had the royal town, a place of regal splendor. Here, the Ghana, the king himself, held court under a magnificent, canopied drum, its deep resonance echoing his power. Legend has it, he never touched the ground, always carried aloft on carpets of finely woven grass. Floating from his opulent palace to the royal mosque. This wasn't just luxury. It was a carefully crafted display of divine authority. Across the sandy expanse, the other town pulsed with a different kind of energy, the Muslim traders' quarter. This was a true melting pot, a symphony of languages, Arabic, Berber, and soon the rhythmic clatter of the first Mande syllables. Imagine the vibrant scene, merchants from across North Africa and the Sahel haggling over prices. Scholars debating theology and the constant movement of goods. Friday prayers in their elegant stone mosques would echo, sometimes eerily, with the sounds of Friday's sacrifices still being offered to the ancient snake god, Beta, who was believed to protect the harvest and ensure the empire's prosperity. This wasn't just coexistence. It was a fascinating cultural tapestry where ancient traditions and a new faith intertwined. Tribute, the lifeblood of any empire, rolled in from every corner of Ghana's vast dominion. Millet, the staple grain, poured in from the fertile Sahel. Elephant ivory, a luxury beyond compare, arrived from the deep forests to the south. Copper, vital for tools and adornments, came from the desert mines. And from faraway Marrakesh, precious books, testaments to knowledge and scholarship, found their way to Kumbhi. By 1000 AD, the Ghana Empire wasn't just a regional power. It was an economic colossus. Its reach stretched from the Atlantic fringes of West Africa all the way to the legendary city of Timbuktu, feeding, incredibly, a quarter of the entire trans-Saharan economy. Think about that for a moment. The diners circulating in European markets, the gold dust traded in the bustling souk of Sudan, much of it was minted from the same Ghanaian ore. The empire even pioneered one of the first standardized currencies in West Africa, Ghanaian gold weights. Meticulously crafted and universally accepted, bringing order to complex transactions. If you had walked through those vibrant markets in 1050, past the stalls overflowing with exotic goods and the murmur of countless tongues, you might have heard the griots, the master storytellers, boast with fervent pride that their king possessed so much gold. He could melt it all down and plate the entire desert floor. That's how rich ancient Ghana was. That's the legacy it built. But here's the harsh truth. Even unimaginable wealth, even rivers of gold, can't buy rain. And that, tragically, is where the first insidious cracks began to appear in Ghana's glittering facade. Tree-ring data and lakebed cores, our modern scientific detectives reveal a grim picture. The Sahel region, the very breadbasket of the empire, began a relentless drying trend around 1050. This wasn't just a bad season. It was a profound, long-term climate shift. The consequences were devastating. Millet yields, the foundation of their food supply, began to shrink dramatically. Herds of cattle, goats, and sheep, vital for sustenance and trade, thinned out, their grazing lands turning to dust. What happens when people get hungry and resources dwindle? Loyalty gets tested. The once loyal vassal provinces, already chafing under Ghana's authority, began to cast covetous eyes toward the capital, sensing weakness. In a desperate attempt to keep revenue steady and maintain its lavish lifestyle, the king, made a fateful decision. He raised the tolls on trade. But astute merchants, always seeking the path of least resistance and maximum profit, weren't easily deterred. They simply responded by opening new alternative trade routes that completely bypassed the empire. Eastern routes, through emerging hubs like Gao and later through Takeda, started siphoning off the vital gold flow. Less and less gold reached the royal coffers, creating a vicious cycle. With its primary income stream dwindling, the Ghana felt compelled to lean even harder on his own people, particularly the struggling farmers already battling the drought. Taxes increased, demands grew, and resentment festered. Rebellions, once isolated incidents, began to flare up with alarming frequency along the desert fringes, further destabilizing the empire. And as if internal strife and environmental catastrophe weren't enough, a new formidable threat was brewing in the north. A puritanical Berber movement, the Almoravids, was sweeping out of the vast Sahara. They were armed not just with newfound religious zeal, a fervent desire to spread a stricter form of Islam, but also with Saharan silver, which they used to pay their growing armies. These weren't just raiders. These were conquerors with a clear agenda. They wanted both souls and tariffs, and they saw Ghana's immense wealth as an irresistible prize. The stage was set for a collision course. The inevitable clash came in 1076. The Almoravids, a force of religious conviction and military might, laid siege to Kumbi Salid, the beating heart of the Golden Empire. Historical chronicles, as they often do, disagree on the precise outcome. Did they level the city to the ground, leaving it a smoking ruin? Or did they simply install a puppet ruler, a figurehead who would do their bidding? The exact details are debated among historians, but one thing is unequivocally clear: the effect was devastatingly the same. The empire's spine, its central authority and economic power, snapped. The intricate web of tribute, which had sustained Ghana for centuries, dried up almost overnight. Trade, the very foundation of its prosperity, diverted entirely to those new eastern routes, leaving Ghana commercially isolated. The Ghana's court, once so grand and secure, was forced to flee southward. Abandoning Kumbi Sala and seeking refuge toward the bend of the Niger River, a shadow of its former self. For the next 50 years, what was once a unified, powerful empire devolved into a chaotic patchwork of mini-states. Each petty kingdom, often led by former vassals, desperately tried to claim some scrap of the golden legacy, fighting amongst themselves for dwindling resources and influence. Ghana still existed, yes, but it was no longer the dominant power. It was just one petty kingdom among many, its once limitless gold reduced to mere bargaining chips for survival. The mighty snake Bida, the ancient protector of the harvest and prosperity, legend says, finally swallowed its own tail, a poignant metaphor for an empire that consumed itself, its prosperity turning to dust. The Almoravids, while perhaps not directly occupying Ghana for long, had delivered a crippling blow, leaving a power vacuum and an empire in disarray. Just when you might think the drama couldn't get any worse, that the empire had suffered enough, the heavens themselves seemed to close in. Between 1100 and 1200, the region suffered what historians now call a megadrought. This wasn't just a few dry years. This was a century of relentless aridity, an ecological catastrophe that would deliver the final crushing blow, the coup de grâce. Lake Fagabin, once a vast freshwater reservoir vital for agriculture and life, shrank to a mere puddle, its shores receding dramatically. The Senegal River, another lifeline, slowed to a trickle. The vital grass cover that had fed the empire's cavalry mounts, essential for military power and control, vanished, replaced by parched earth. Without surplus grain, without the ability to feed its people and its armies, Ghana simply couldn't rebuild. How do you raise a fighting force when your population is starving? How do you project power when your horses are dying of thirst? Without an army, it couldn't reopen those vital trade routes that had been diverted, further deepening its economic woes. Oral epics from the region, passed down through generations, remember this harrowing time as the years of eating the seed millet. Think about the desperation embedded in that phrase. People were so hungry, they were forced to consume the very seeds they needed to plant for the next harvest, sacrificing their future for immediate survival. Archaeologists, digging through the sands of time, have found storage pits abandoned half full, as if farmers expected to return next spring to finish their work, but never did. The land simply gave up on them. The Ghana successors, the Soso, tried valiantly to revive the gold flow, to reclaim some semblance of the empire's former glory. But they inherited only broken roads, parched fields, and thorn scrub, a desolate shadow of the Golden Empire. Their efforts were ultimately futile. In 1235, a rising star named Sundiata Keita, the legendary founder of the Mali Empire, crushed the Soso at the Battle of Kurana. From the ashes of Ghana and the fragmented mini-states, a new power emerged, Mali. This new empire was richer, blessed with a wetter climate, and crucially, much closer to new abundant goldfields in Bure. The once unrivaled king of gold became a fading chapter, then a historical footnote, and finally, just a revered name on a modern flag. So, what really happened to the Golden Empire of West Africa? It wasn't a single catastrophic event, but rather a tragic convergence. A perfect storm of factors that proved insurmountable. It was an over-reliance on a single commodity, gold, that made it vulnerable to shifts in trade. It was the brutal climate whiplash, the relentless megadrought that starved its people and crippled its infrastructure. It was the external jihad of the Almoravids, destabilizing its political core, and the internal breakaways that fragmented its power. But here's the powerful, enduring truth. The gold itself never vanished. It simply changed pockets. The same caravans that once knelt to the Ghana, paying their hefty tolls, now knelt to the rising power of Mali. Later, they paid tribute to the mighty Songhai Empire, and still later to the powerful Ashanti. The economic engine of West Africa, fueled by gold, continued to turn just under new management. In a profound way, the spirit of the Ghana Empire survives every time a West African entrepreneur charges a digital fee for moving value today, connecting people and goods across vast distances. And perhaps it collapses every time a nation, any nation, puts all its economic eggs in one basket, relying on a single crop or a single road to prop up its entire existence. The desert, with its long memory, remembers these lessons. Walk the haunting ruins of Kumbi Sela at sunset, and you might still find glittering flecks in the sand. Tiny coins, perhaps dropped by ancient traders who, in their time, truly believed that gold was forever. But it turns out, it's the story, the human narrative, the lessons learned and lost, not the metal, that truly lasts. Did you first hear about Ghana through Mansa Musa's famous gold-laden trip? Or perhaps through a history book? Drop a comment telling us which West African empire you want decoded next. We love diving into these forgotten legends. And if you want more incredible forgotten stories melted down into plain English, don't hesitate. Hit that subscribe button. No toll required.